Welcome. I'm David Bland. Hopefully you've seen some other materials. Today we're going to talk about business plans. But before we do, let me say this. There are a lot of folks on the internet who are telling you all kinds of things about how to do whatever you might be interested in, frankly. And many of them have no idea what they're talking about. Okay? But that does not stop people from talking. So what I want to strongly encourage you to do, if you have not already done so, is we do a little introductory presentation, give you a little bit of information about me, my background, what I've done, and why I might have some clue as to what I'm talking about, trying to help you. If you take a look at that, you think I'm worth listening to, I would encourage you to keep watching, but mostly you need to know who you're speaking with or who you're listening to so that you're getting value. Now, with that said, let's get started. This document is actually the very first business plan that I wrote. It is a plan that I wrote 25 years ago, and it was the plan in which I was going to use to create my own company, which I have run for the last 25 years. We're going to go through today, at some level, this plan. We're not going to look at the details because that doesn't matter. But we're going to talk about why it does matter that you do one, okay? And why that is significant, and what you should do to create one, and what should be in it, and the benefits you'll receive from it. So let's get started. The first thing I want to share, honestly, is the why. Look, when you decide that you want to do a business plan, or a business in general, you tend to get very excited, right? You also get very focused, right? You assume that because you've decided you want to do something, it must be something people want. Okay? And that you must be able to actually do it and deliver it and maybe even make a living at it if that's what you're interested in doing, as opposed to maybe just a sideline. My experience says it's not necessarily true. In fact, quite honestly, my original plan for my business was changed so dramatically as to, you could certainly still recognize the business, but I unquestionably got recalibrated by the market about what the market actually might want, as opposed to maybe what I want to sell. And so it's actually not really all that important what you want to sell. What's important is, what does the market want to buy? And even more important, what does it want to buy from you? Okay? So in that excitement to proceed and to move forward, the sad truth is, I think most of the time people don't do a business plan. Okay? They just jump in and they go for it, and they work really hard, and in fact, sometimes they spend money really they can't afford to spend, and all an endeavor that is almost obviously doomed to fail before they start. And if they'd have done a little work instead of having just excitement, they might have known that. So a business plan is really almost the most important thing to do to start your business. It is not something to skip or to pass by or not do, because it actually will make the difference between whether you are successful or you are not. Why? Right? I mean, that really sounds impressive. Oh, all I got to do is write a business plan and I'm successful. Well, make no mistake, that's not what I'm telling you. What I am telling you is that you can't be successful unless you write one. So why is that? Doing a business plan forces you, and I do mean forces you to take an honest look at the business you think you want to run. It forces you to remove what is referred to, at least in my generation, as rose-colored glasses. It forces you to really analyze all aspects of your business, how you will do it, what you think it is, where you will do it, and how much you should charge, how much can you charge, What will you need in the way of sales volume? All kinds of factors that honestly, unless you go through this motion, you may not actually do, right? You may just come up, I got this great idea, I've got this $1,000 sitting in the bank, let's go. A business plan really, and you will see before we're finished today, business plan forces you to really analyze the business. Now, don't get scared by that word analyze, right? Probably less than half the population likes math and wants math and is comfortable doing math, right? And the word analyze says, oh my gosh, I'm going to be doing some math. So here's the bad news. You are going to be doing some math, okay? Because there's no way to pay bills and to figure out what to charge without doing some math, okay? But that's not what analyze actually means here. What I'm talking about is, yes, do some math, and we'll talk about what math you need to do. But also, it's look at, okay, where are you? What is your product? Who are your competitors? It's all kinds of analysis to help you figure out, can I really be successful in this market? So it is important that you proceed along it because it actually teaches you things that you might not otherwise pay attention to. But I also want to urge caution, okay? I've spent decades running various very complicated things. Businesses, of course. But honestly, more than that. Before I opened my business, and since I've opened my business, I and my firm have been asked to run what I'll call projects, which means there's some goal or objective that a company has. It has restrictions on it. It has rules that govern it. It takes money to do it, and it has outcomes they're looking for. And I've run projects from as small as, a few $100,000 to as large as hundreds of millions of dollars. And here's the thing I'll tell you. Any plan you might actually get involved with, any plan I've ever gotten involved with, in any of those circumstances, the plan is only good for the very first day you start. After that, life will tell you you have to adjust the plan. So what's the value of the plan, if that's true? And I assure you it is. The value in a plan is that it creates a structure under which you know how it would work at every level. And moreover, you now know when something goes wrong, what impact that makes to your plan, and you know better how to adjust to try to stay on track or maybe even do better. Okay? So a business plan, this business plan, was good the day I opened the door. And after that, I had to be thinking, understanding, reacting, and innovating how to stay in business for 24 years. So you will have to do the same. I hope that you're involved in business that long. But I don't want you to think it's a permanent thing. It's just your starting point. The other thing it's going to do, and this is an area, most businesses fail. The sad truth is most businesses fail. A huge reason why they fail is because the people that started them never understood how much money it would take to get it working and to get through that first critical year that has a lot to do with whether you survive or you don't. Because part of what a business plan will do is help you understand just how much money it's going to take until you get to the point where you're actually making money. I don't want to bore you with the details of my business, but I will tell you, it was a simple, at the start, consulting business. I went through $175,000 of cash before I actually started making enough money to pay my staff and to turn a profit. It can be astonishing how much money you might need for your business, even if it's very simple. So you can see the size of my business plan. I don't really actually know how many pages it is. We'll just, for argument's sake, maybe say it's 50, 60, 70 pages. It really doesn't matter how big or small your business plan is. What does matter is what you have thought about, what you have written down, what you have thought through, and what you're prepared to enter business to do. So let's talk about that. Okay. And I'm going to use my business plan as a guide to talk about the sections that I did. But here's what I want you to know. On the internet, if you search business plans, in whatever search engine you use, you will find so many examples, recommendations, guidance, and on our webpage you will find an example of how to go about doing it too. However you want to do it, whoever's guidance you want to follow, or whatever sections you want to create, please be sure to do one before you get too deep into your excitement. So let's go through what's in mine. So I have 5 sections in my business plan. They are introduction, a statement of purpose, the business, financial data, and then supporting documentation. So let's go through each of those and talk about what's in those sections and what I thought about before I opened the doors to my business and what you should think about before you open the doors to your business. So the introduction is really just a bunch of what I would call boilerplate. All right, it's going to go through where do you plan on doing business? Who is going to be a part of your business? What is your business name, right? Is it a brand name that you're going to use because you're a sole proprietor or a partnership, which we have talked about in another session? Is it an actual corporate name that you have done because you've created a company under which to do your business? Those are the kind of things that go up front. The addresses, your phone numbers. You probably want to flag any professionals that you may have already identified that will be part of your overall support team, like an accountant as an example, or maybe a lawyer, depending upon how complicated your businesses may be. That's what I put in the first section of my plan. It's basically flagging information that says, okay, here, it's not about what you're doing. It's about where and who you're doing. Okay? Who's in the business? What is the business? Where do you find it? How do you reach it? And who are the players? The second section, for me, as I said, was the statement of purpose. So what goes into a statement of purpose? So what I suggest to you, and I can't give you the answer for what goes into yours, all right? You actually have to understand that. What it needs to do is have you back up and say, okay, I'm going to go into business. Why? Okay, can you answer that question? I can tell you you need to be able to answer it. And the answer is not so I can make lots of money. That will come later on in the plan. Okay, the why is, why are you in business? What is it that you do? And why should that make a difference to anyone other than you and maybe your family or close friends? The statement of purpose needs to be, why does my business matter in the market? What am I trying to do and provide that has value to others? Obviously not a big section, but you should be able to answer that. So the next section is the business, okay, and here's where we get into the meat. All right. Not financial, just ideas and concepts and risks and competition. So first, you should actually, in some length, describe your business. List out what it is it's in business to do, what it is you think you're going to provide, all that kind of meaningful stuff. What products are you selling? Just one? Several? Are you going to be in a storefront? Are you going to be remote and it all happens through the internet? Are you selling a product? Are you going to need to warehouse it? Are you going to be simply what I would call a broker, whatever it is you're selling, where you sell things to third parties that you buy from others. However you're going to run your business, whatever you're going to do your business, the first thing you need to talk about is what is the business, right? This is where you get a first chance to document that. Now, once you know the answer to that question and you've documented all that, you should be able to, and you need to look into the next question and the next section, which says, okay, who are my competitors? Who am I actually competing against? That is important for you to know, okay? Because those are the people who either already have your clients or are going to be trying to steal them. And steal is a word I use intentionally because the full gambit of resources, behaviors, and activities will be played to be sure they have your clients and you do not. All right. So, and it's more complicated than it might sound, right? So, I, in the initial business, was going to help solve the United States nuclear waste disposal problems. Now that sounds very heavy, right? And so when I thought about who my competitors were, some of them were easy, right? It's companies that sell containers that store nuclear waste. It's engineering firms that provide design solutions on how to package or handle nuclear waste. There's a whole range of folks like that, right? But it's also the government of the United States. Those are folks who could also step in and take what I would hope to be my clients. And then there's no business for me to get. My clients themselves could choose to do it on their own, not hire anybody. In fact, by the way, every one of these options actually happens in that business over the years that I've run it. And every one of them were actually competitors to me. Okay, so you need to be thinking about not just who sells the same product, because that's a very narrow view of who your competitors are. You also need to be thinking about what could my clients or maybe clients do instead of coming to me. They could choose a different alternative to achieve the same outcome. And oh, by the way, could my clients choose to do it themselves, or could they choose to do it not at all? So section 2 is to look at the marketplace and figure out what is your competition to generating revenue. We've already talked, I mean, you can reiterate here the location of business. We're going to have another module that kind of helps you think that through, figure out how to decide where to put your business. And what you need in terms of running your business. I'm not going to go into that at length here. You should be putting that though in your business plan. Those kind of details, not just your address or not just your strategy, but how you decided what you needed, when you need it, and how you're going to implement it. The next section should be, how are you going to manage the business? Okay. Is it just you? Are you a sole proprietor? Are you going to have a partner? Are you going to hire senior management personnel to run your business? All those things are necessary in terms of your next plan, because it's telling you how to run your business. The next thing is you need to figure out, okay, am I doing this on my own, or am I going to have to hire staff? You don't necessarily need to know who at this point. And in fact, you might not actually be able to tell who. But you certainly need to know what. What skills are you going to need? What kind of help are you going to have to hire? I mean, let's just say you're opening a sandwich shop, right? And you expect to have 300 customers a day. You know, maybe you're going to need dishwashers. Maybe you're going to need waiters. Maybe you're going to need someone at the door. Right? There's a whole range of possibilities that you should know you need to run your business. All of that needs to be outlined here. You need to have thought that through so you know how you're going to get running. You need to work through here, and we've got another module on where to find money, okay? But at this point in the plan, you need to walk through just exactly how much funding you think you're going to need, and we'll talk about how you create that answer, but also where you're going to get it. Okay, again, if you're going to take these things to banks, honestly, they're going to expect you to have answered these questions, because if you haven't, you're going to have even 2 or 3 years in, you're going to have a hard time getting anyone wanting to loan you money. And then finally, you should summarize it all, right? Basically, close out that section of the report that essentially laid out all your thoughts, all your needs, all your plans, all the equipment that you're going to need. All of that would be in there. So let's move, that's section 3. Let's move to section 4, okay? And here's where you need to get your pencil and your calculator out, or your computer and your spreadsheet, or your piece of paper and your eraser, okay? Whatever it is you're going to use, I don't care, all right? But you have to do this. And there's probably, or there might be, some terms in the things I'm going to describe here that you won't necessarily understand. Don't worry about that, okay? Later on, I'm going to add some additional modules that'll help explain some of these financial terms, because I'm going to assume you're going to be successful, which means you're going to have to start understanding what these terms mean, because they're going to become important to you as your business grows. So let's talk about what goes in the financial data. All right, so we've already talked about how you expect to apply your funding needs, right? Maybe salaries, maybe frying ovens for a restaurant, might be computers for an office complex, whatever it is you're going to do. We've already talked about how you're going to apply the money. Let's talk about what goes in the financial data, and right, it's how much money you're going to need. So there's very complicated questions you need to answer. All right, so let's start with the first one. When you walk in to your business, it's almost certain, although I'll acknowledge it might not be completely certain if you are literally nothing more than a broker, although you'd still have some startup cost. You need to work through how much money do I need to spend before I can even actually offer any of the products that I have an interest in. As I said, there's a whole range of things that you might need to buy. Even if you don't have to buy anything, you somehow have to reach your clients. Okay? So you might need a web domain, you might need a web page, you might need a service, you might need a phone, right? You might need an email account. No matter how trivial the item, you might need a 50,000 square foot industrial facility, right? I mean, you might need hundreds of millions of dollars of capital equipment, and again, we'll explain those terms later on in another module, capital equipment that actually is required for you to manufacture the product that you expect to sell. It's a huge range of possibilities, but no one can start a business with nothing. You have to have something to start your business. Those are referred to as capital and startup equipment. You need to outline what they are. Could be as simple as notebooks, right? You need to go through everything you think it's going to take to start your business. You need to find out what that costs at the stores, online, wherever it is you're going to buy it, however you're going to achieve acquisition of them. You need to price it all out. You need to know how many you need. You need to make sure you have a complete list of what I would refer to as your startup costs. These are the monies that you have to spend simply to pretend like you're in business. You're not really in business yet. You're simply in it. And I'll tell you, remember I said over $100,000 it took me before I started making money. Ignore the stuff I financed, like a telephone system, okay, in the office that I was going to run. I spent $20,000 before I opened the door, right? I had to buy desks for people to sit at. I had to have chairs for them. I had to have notebooks, pens, everything. Whatever it is, you need to figure it out, you need to write it down, you need to figure out what each item costs, and you need to add it up, because until you've spent that money, you haven't even started. So the next section is about your balance sheet. Okay, again, I'm sure many of you do know what that means, but some of you may not. Okay, your balance sheet is basically a list of all your assets and all your liabilities that you have with the business and all the money you have invested. Okay, it's a way for financial people to look at your business and tell whether you're healthy. Right? Clearly, if you have only $100 in assets and you haven't put any money in, but you've borrowed $100,000, that might be where you start, okay, but that means people are going to be really nervous about you, okay, because you don't have anything yet except a whole bunch of debt. But you're going to need to work up a balance sheet, okay, and again, there's lots of things online that will help you see what they look like. It's all of those things that you're going to buy. It's all the cash you're going to have at hand, and you are going to need cash as well. It's all of those items detailed out that helps you understand how your business looks, how secure it is, how stable it is, and what your chances are of success. The next thing that you need to do is called a break-even analysis. Okay. So what that looks at is, all right, so you have some level of fixed cost. Okay, you have utility bills, you have internet charges, right? I don't know what your costs are going to be. I know what mine were, okay? But whatever yours are, you have bills that if you don't sell the first product, you have to pay anyway. Okay, so you need to get all that in a big list and kind of assume for the first 2, 3, 4 months, those are your bills. Once you've done that, then you look at the other side of the equation, right? I mean, you are in business to sell something, whatever that might be. Services, products, whatever it is you're selling. You need to look at how much it costs to provide those. Now, if it's a service and it's just you, it's only your time, right? And so until you make money, you don't have to pay yourself. But if you're hiring other people to provide this service, then they cost you money. They have a payroll, a salary, an hourly rate, whatever it may be. Subcontractors, again, all of those things, all of those costs for you to sell your product, materials, parts that you're buying, all of those items are what's called cost of goods sold. So anything you spend uniquely to produce a product that you're selling, those are cost of goods sold. Excuse me, you need to know what those are, okay, because those are also expenses, right? While all those baseline expenses I originally talked about are part of what you need, they just are expenses you have to pay every month, even if you don't sell a product. But if you sell a product, you have more expenses that come into play. Those are your cost of goods sold. Those are the things that you actually need to also figure out what they cost, okay? Because without knowing those, you actually can't sell anything because you have nothing to sell. And you can't figure out, remember what we're working on here, the break-even analysis. You can't figure out what the break-even analysis is until you know those answers as well, okay? Now, from that cost of goods sold, you can take those numbers and you can take your overheads, that's what they're called, right? Those base expenses, whether you have any clients or not, and you can add them together. And now you have a sense of, well, how much does it cost me to run my business? That'll help you figure out how to price your products, right? Now, the market's going to play a game in that too, but this is part of what helps you know if your business will work. If the market price for something is $10, and when you have finished adding up all of your overhead costs and all of your cost of goods sold, and you have to sell that product for $25, it's not hard to figure out you are not going to be in business very long because no one is going to buy it. And so what you have to figure out is what are those costs? What are those costs of goods sold? How many of my product do I need to sell at my markup selling prices to break even, right? So I'm not pumping money into a business that is just losing money. Make no mistake, chances are, at least for a while, you're going to lose money. Everyone does. You need to figure out how big you need to get the business up to stop that bleeding. Or get to the point where you're at least paying your bills. Okay? That's the break-even analysis. That's how you do it. We might break out another session later on in the future that goes into more depth, but you've got the general idea. The next section and I've already alluded to this a little bit, is the projected monthly expense and revenue, right? So once you get that break-even concept, you can now start talking about, okay, well, I don't want to just break even. I'm not starting business to break even. I'm starting business because I want to make money. I want to grow a business. I want to make lots of profit. Okay, so that forces you to think through, okay, not just break even. What would I like to sell? What do I think I can sell? How does that work out? What would my expenses be? What would my cash flow be? Right? If you're selling products to people who walk out the door with your product and hand you cash, hey, then your what's called cash flow is immediate. But if you're selling to clients who will pay you in the future for work you do today, and by the way, that's the business that I had. Sometimes 30 days later, sometimes 45 days later, sometimes some companies don't pay for 120 days after you give them the product. You have to figure all that out. Figure out how you keep your cash moving forward so you stay alive. And here's the number one thing to learn. Any business without cash, no matter how good it is done. Cash is, in fact, king. So once you have that, right, and that will generate some income projections, profit and loss statements, and again, we'll cover that in greater detail elsewhere. Cash flow statements, which I just alluded to, right? It's not just income necessarily and losses. It's cash flow. You may be turning a profit, but you have no cash because you're waiting for it to come in, and you haven't gotten any more, and you have no more sources of cash. Again, so your business is over. Someday you'll have some extra money from it, but your business is through. The last thing I want you to put in this section, in this financial data, right? We just talked about how you break even. How do you to actually grow a business to make money by selling more of whatever you sell than it takes to break even, right? That doesn't happen by magic. I actually had a very sharp, very smart staff member one time tell me, "Don't worry, David. It's all going to be okay. All we have to do is do a really great job, and word will get around, and we'll get clients, and it'll all work out." So what I'll tell you is, he was absolutely right about most of what he said. If you don't deliver a quality product, you won't be done and out of business quickly, but you will be out of business. People will not buy from you eventually. But it's not just about a quality product. People don't even know you exist. You're going to have to figure out how to market your product, how to get those sales that you're looking for, that you need first in a break even, and that you want for a company that you're excited about running. You have to figure out, remember we talked about who are your competitors. You're going to have to look at what they do. You're going to have to look how to get attention in that same venue. You're going to have to look how to figure out how to get people to want to use you instead. If your product is brand new, it's never existed, nobody's selling, and that's possible. Some of what I sold initially was exactly that. You're going to have to figure out how to get clients to want to buy it from you, to know about it. So you need to actually include in here, at least initially, how you're going to reach out to the public at large and get them to come to your business. So that's the fourth section, the final section, right? Which is what I said will be supporting documents. For you, they're whatever you need to make the rest of that plan make sense. For me, right, it was okay, I talked about our business plan, our purpose for being in business. But I didn't talk about what's your mission, right? What is it that you want people to think about you? So I wrote one. You may not. It's up to you. You need, in my case, I needed to include resumes of those key people I talked about we were going to have in the company. I included copies of leases. I needed an office space to work in, right, to make myself legitimate to the kind of clients that I wanted. You may need that too. Remember, we're going to talk about where you might want to do your business in another module. And then, of course, that last item, which is the last item I talked about, you're going to need to develop marketing materials. However you're going to advertise, you need to have conceptualized how that looks so you can grab people's attention. Okay, so if you've listened through this and you've paid attention, you should now be able to really look at your business, think about your business, and figure out what you should do with it. Okay. If you've not yet started it, this is the way to go. If you have started it, but you didn't do this, it's never, ever too late to put it in. In fact, I'll tell you this. The entire 20 plus years I ran the company before I decided I had had enough, I always had a 10-year forward-looking plan that was revised every year. Okay. You will need it as well. This never stops. It's part of how you visualize your business, how you execute your business, how you pre-plan what you want to happen, and so you know what to do when reality happens. So I appreciate your time today. There'll be some more sessions that will come along, helping you figure out how to enter this thing called business and how to hopefully live your dream. Until next time, thanks for watching.